Avatar: The Last Airbender is bar none one of the greatest animated series to ever exist in the animation industry, packed with beautiful animation, wonderful storytelling, memorable characters, making it the masterpiece of television that it's praised to be even to this day. Legend of Korra is okay, but it definitely beats watching The Last Airbender, that's for sure. This leads to the topic of the video. Why did they have to remake this? It seems highly unnecessary to do so. I know I'm kind of on the small minority on this topic, but honestly, I don't care. This remake did not need to happen, and I'm standing by that. Why? Because we already have one that already exists, the original. The animated one, the one that actually freaking matters. From what I've gathered in terms of reception of this series of being positive, I think the only reason why people even supported this series to happen in the first place was because of the mountain of indescribable hate towards the last time they tried that. I mean, I hate that movie with a passion just as much as anyone. I mean, I made a review about it a year ago. It's an absolutely trash movie that deserves the hate that it gets, but not to the point where we have to try it again, because we don't need to. We already have a perfectly good series that was made like decades before this show even came out. It's literally streaming on the same goddamn platform, and yet we choose this version? Were people just pissed off about the Shyamalan version, that they were expecting it to be good, and that's why they're supporting this remake? Is that why this exists? Because that's probably the dumbest reason to actually support it. If you like the show though, but no disrespect, I'm just trying to express my opinion. If you like it, then you like it, then whatever. Now, in terms of the Shyamalan film, when it was first coming out, people were supporting it because they wanted to see their favorite cartoon show on the big screen. But the imminent red flags that were being shown as the movie was being released and advertised were pretty much in plain sight. I'm gonna point them out right now. So the first one being animation to live action, which is probably one of the worst markets to ever profit from. It's not entertaining, it's not fun, it's basically nothing, and unfortunately there's a whole market around it. I'll never understand why. It's absolute horseshit. The second red flag is M. Night Shyamalan. While M. Night Shyamalan has improved over the years of being a much better director than when he was in his mid-ground was definitely him at his worst, with movies like The Village, The Happening, and Lady in the Water. And The Last Airbender was the nail in the coffin for people to think that he's one of the worst directors of all time. And while I was on this similar boat with that, it wasn't because of this film entirely. It was because of those three movies I mentioned earlier as to why I never watched this one, because I knew it was going to suck. With him at the helms of trying to recreate one of the greatest animated series of all time, just doesn't seem like the best transition marketing wise, and it would just completely fall apart before it happens. It just seemed like a quick cash grab, and it seemed to have worked, unfortunately, because this movie made a shit ton, which is still ridiculous. And finally, the third one being the advertising. This is some of the worst advertising I've seen in any movie. From this really bad trailer to showcasing of the worst CGI I've ever seen, and the overall just bad production that goes into the movie. And it's literally shown to you in plain sight some of the worst stuff I've seen in movie history, and people still saw this piece of shit. That will always surprise me to no end. It's more embarrassing than with the Sonic movie and how they advertised their movie. And yet they still got away with it. Seeing these red flags are the reason why I never even watched the film when it came out, and why I'll never watch a live action version of the series, or any of what they'll ever make in the future, because this doesn't need to be live action to begin with. I don't really like this kind of entertainment and that it's taking over the market. What I mean particularly is the fact that they're taking IPs that already exist and not only remaking them into another version of said IP, but they're also copying and pasting them. I don't like that. They did it with this series, they did it with The Last of Us, and now they're going to do it with a lot more that come out in the future, and I'm not really a fan of that. I don't like the fact that stories from other IPs, from other mediums are being copied and pasted into this medium of TV or movies, stuff like that. I really don't like that, because it kind of oversaturates the whole market with just uncreativity and just regurgitating the same thing over and over. And I understand that's a Hollywood thing, but it's becoming worse and worse as time goes on, and it really frightens me. It really frightens me that this is what's being popular. Anyway, back to Avatar. The only one Avatar that matters to me is the one that existed long before any of this shit. and that's the one I'm gonna stick by. Now, if they were to make a new Avatar of some kind, I would much rather have a new generation of Avatar where he or she is the last of the Avatar cycle. Like, if he or she were to die in the Avatar state through some dilemma or some perilous adventure of some kind, maybe like the last episode of that particular part of the series, the Avatar would be completely gone, as the lore would state. This would allow the rest of human society to figure out how to restore balance to the world by themselves and without the Avatar's help. It's kind of what leads to what human society is dealing with now and how they're trying to restore it into the better of what it could be as opposed to what it is now, because it's kind of a mess, and human society is a mess. It doesn't take one person to just do all that by themselves. Sometimes it's going to take more than one person. And I like that bit of commentary in that sort of realm of reality of Avatar being portrayed in that. That would be interesting. That would kind of revitalize the importance of the overall subject matter of what the Avatar, or at least the philosophy of what the Avatar is supposed to be. That would be an interesting concept. But no, let's just watch the same thing over and over, because that's fun. Thanks, Hollywood.